The vast chamber stretched endlessly above Admiral Taemin's head, its crystalline walls pulsing with soft alien light. He had never imagined he would stand here, in the heart of the Galactic Council, surrounded by beings his species had only dreamed about in science fiction stories. But these were not the friendly aliens from old Earth movies. These creatures were desperate, their translucent bodies flickering with fear. Taemin adjusted his military uniform, feeling out of place, among the flowing robes and biomechanical suits of the other species. Beside him stood Captain Jiwoo and Commander Da-Wun, the only other humans allowed in this sacred space. Their faces remained calm, but he could see the tension in their shoulders. They all knew why they were here. The Vex representative stepped forward, its forearms moving in what humans had learned was a gesture of extreme urgency. Its voice came through the translation device as a series of clicks and whistles that somehow formed words in Korean. "Your species has been observed," it said, its large eyes never blinking. "Your methods of warfare are unusual." Commander Da-Un almost smiled at that. Unusual was a polite way of saying brutal. The aliens had been watching Earth's history, studying human conflicts with the kind of horrified fascination one might have while watching a car accident. Another being glided forward, this one from the Zolani Collective. Its form shifted like liquid metal as it spoke. "The Void Swarm has consumed 734 worlds in the past solar cycle. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons barely slow them down." Taemin had seen the reports. Entire star systems going dark. Billions of lives snuffed out as the swarm moved through space like a cosmic plague. The aliens fought with honor, using energy shields and plasma weapons in organized formations. It was beautiful to watch and completely ineffective against an enemy that had no concept of honor. "We have lost 70% of our territory," continued the Zolani. "Our scientists estimate complete galactic extinction within 50 rotations." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the translation devices. Taemin could feel the weight of despair pressing down on everyone present. These ancient civilizations, some millions of years old, were facing their end. "Captain," Jiwoo stepped forward, "what exactly are you asking of humanity?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it out loud. A third alien, one that looked like a walking tree made of silver bark, rustled its branches before speaking. "Your species approaches warfare differently. You use tactics that we find disturbing." "You mean effective?" Da-Un said quietly. "Yes," the tree being admitted. "Effective." Taemin had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying every piece of intelligence Earth had gathered about the swarm. The enemy was a collective consciousness, billions of bioships working as one mind. They were efficient, predictable, and utterly ruthless. But they had one weakness. They expected their enemies to act rationally. "You want us to be your soldiers," Taemin said. It was not a question. The Vex representative's form flickered more rapidly, a sign of emotional distress. "We offer technology beyond your current understanding. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, medical advances that could extend your lives by centuries. And," Jiwoo prompted, "a permanent seat on the Galactic Council. Recognition as a sapient species with full rights and protections under galactic law." It was everything humanity had dreamed of since first looking up at the stars. The chance to join a vast community of intelligent life, to learn from civilizations that had mastered the secrets of the universe. All they had to do was fight an unwinnable war against an enemy that had already defeated everyone else. Commander Da-Un looked at her colleagues. "What makes you think we can succeed where you have failed?" The silver tree being's branches swayed. "Your species has survived by fighting impossible odds. You have wars that last for years over small pieces of land. You sacrifice thousands to save hundreds. You fight when any logical species would surrender." "You think we are crazy," Taemin observed. "We think you are our only hope." The Admiral walked to the great window that showed the swirling galaxy beyond. Somewhere out there in the darkness, the swarm was consuming worlds, turning everything it touched into more of itself. Behind him, he could feel the desperate attention of species that had ruled the stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. He thought about Earth, about the 8 billion people living their lives unaware that their planet might be the galaxy's last stand. He thought about all the human conflicts throughout history, the stubborn refusal to give up even when defeat was certain. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe humanity's greatest weakness was also its greatest strength. "We will need complete access to your military databases," he said without turning around. "Ship designs, weapon specifications, tactical reports on every encounter with the swarm." "Agreed. And when this is over, assuming we survive, humanity gets full membership in your council. No restrictions, no probationary period." "Agreed." Taemin turned back to face the assembled aliens. Their desperate hope was almost painful to see. They were asking humanity to walk into hell, and they knew it. "Then we accept your offer." The die was cast. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sector 7, and Commander Hyunwoo immediately knew they were walking into a disaster. Through the bridge windows of his flagship, he could see the beautiful alien warships retreating in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like silver jewelry against the black of space. "Those are Zilani cruisers," reported Navigator Yunji, checking her displays. "They are pulling back at maximum speed." Behind the retreating alien fleet, the reason for their flight became clear. The void swarm ships moved like a dark cloud across the starfield, their bioorganic hulls pulsing with sickly light. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, covered in what looked like living tissue that rippled and breathed. Captain Soo-jin activated her comm unit from the pilot seat of her fighter. "Command, this is Red Squadron. The aliens are running like scared children." "Watch your language, Captain," Hyunwoo replied, but he understood her frustration. The Galactic Council. Species fought like they were performing a dance, keeping proper distances and exchanging energy blasts in organized patterns. It was elegant and completely useless. On the tactical display, Lieutenant Bo-Ram highlighted the enemy formation. "Sir, the swarm ships are advancing in a standard grid pattern. They expect the same kind of fighting they have seen from other species." Hyunwoo smiled. The swarm was about to learn that humans did not follow the rules. "All ships, this is command. Forget everything you learned about space combat from the aliens. We are going to fight this our way." The human fleet was small compared to what the aliens usually sent into battle. Only 50 ships, most of them converted cargo haulers and mining vessels that had been quickly fitted with weapons. They looked rough and ugly next to the graceful alien craft, but Hyunwoo preferred it that way. "Engineering, report on the special." "Modifications," he called. Chief Engineer Minho answered from the lower decks. "All ramming prows are installed and ready. Nuclear mines are armed. The cargo ships have been loaded with our surprise packages." Those surprise packages were something the galaxy had never seen before. While other species used energy weapons that could be blocked by shields, humans had brought something simpler and more direct: kinetic kill vehicles. Massive chunks of metal designed to punch through enemy hulls at incredible speed. The first swarm ship opened fire, sending streams of bioplasma toward the retreating alien fleet. The Zilani vessels raised their energy shields and began their traditional response pattern, firing back with precise plasma bursts that looked like colorful fireworks. "Red Squadron, Blue Squadron, attack formation Gamma," Hyunwoo ordered. The human fighters broke away from the main fleet and dove toward the swarm ships like angry hornets. But instead of trying to dogfight with the bioships, they had a different mission. Captain Soo-jin led her squadron straight at the largest swarm vessel, ignoring the plasma fire that filled the space around her. Her fighter was loaded with nuclear mines, each one programmed to attach itself to the enemy hull and explode on her command. "This is crazy," her wingman, Pilot Jun-ho, said over the radio as plasma blasts flew past his cockpit. "Crazy works," Soo-jin replied, releasing her mines as she flew along the length of the bioship. The magnetic devices clamped onto the living hull like metal parasites. Meanwhile, Commander Hyunwoo was preparing his own surprise. "All cargo ships, begin your approach runs." 3 converted freighters, their holds packed with kinetic kill vehicles, accelerated toward the swarm formation. The bioships largely ignored them, focused on the fighters and the alien fleet. This was their first mistake. "Release payloads on my mark," Hyunwoo said, watching his tactical display. 3, 2, 1, mark. The cargo ships opened their holds and released dozens of tungsten rods, each one as long as a telephone pole and moving at tremendous speed. The swarm ships had shields designed to stop energy weapons, but solid metal traveling at several kilometers per second was something entirely different. The rods punched through the bioships like needles through fabric, creating massive holes that vented atmosphere and biofluid into space. The living hulls tried to seal the wounds, but there were too many of them. Lieutenant Boram was monitoring alien communications. "Sir, the Zilani commander is asking what we are doing. He says our tactics are impossible." "Tell him we are winning," Hyunwoo replied. Captain Soo-jin had finished planting her mines and was pulling away from the largest swarm ship. "Fireworks time," she announced, triggering the nuclear devices. The explosions bloomed along the bioship's hull like deadly flowers, tearing away chunks of living tissue. The creature ship writhed in what might have been pain, its movements becoming erratic. But the swarm was learning. The other bioships began to change their formation, trying to protect their damaged companion. Their plasma fire became more focused, targeting the human fighters with increased accuracy. "They are adapting faster than expected," Boram reported. "The swarm is redistributing its forces to counter our attack patterns." This was exactly what Hyunwoo had hoped for. Phase 2. All ships. Ramming speed. The remaining human vessels, led by 2 converted mining ships with reinforced prows, accelerated directly toward the swarm formation. The alien observers watched in horror as the humans prepared to crash their own ships into the enemy. "Human Commander," came a transmission from the Zilani flagship. "Your crews will be destroyed." "Some of them," Hyunwoo agreed calmly. "But we will take the enemy with us." The first mining ship, piloted by veteran Captain Sung-min, struck a swarm vessel amidships. The collision tore both ships apart, but the bioship's internal organs were ruptured beyond repair. It began to drift, dying slowly in the vacuum of space. For the first time in this war, the swarm fleet hesitated. Their collective mind was trying to process something it had never encountered, an enemy willing to destroy itself to achieve victory. Deep in the heart of the largest bioship, something that had not happened in 10,000 years was taking place. The swarm's collective mind was confused. Navigator Yoonji was the first to notice the change from her position on the bridge of the human flagship. She had been watching the enemy formation for 3 hours, tracking their movement patterns, and trying to predict their next attack. But something was wrong. "Admiral Tae-min," she called out, her voice tight with surprise. "The swarm ships are stopping." Through the bridge windows, the massive bio-vessels hung motionless in space. Their usual coordinated movement had ceased, and the pulsing lights along their hulls flickered in irregular patterns. It looked almost like they were having trouble thinking. "What are they doing?" asked Captain Jiwoo, joining Yoonji at the sensor station. "I do not know," Yoonji replied. "They have never done this before." The swarm had swept through the galaxy like a perfect machine, consuming everything in its path with mathematical precision. Every battle followed the same pattern. The bioships would arrive, analyze the enemy's capabilities, and then overwhelm them with superior numbers and firepower. It was efficient, predictable, and unstoppable. But humans were not predictable. Lieutenant. Boram was monitoring the alien communication channels when she heard something that made her blood run cold. The Zilani commander was transmitting on an emergency frequency, his artificial voice filled with what sounded like panic. "The swarm is sending signals," Boram reported. "They are calling for reinforcements from other sectors." Admiral Tae-min moved to the tactical display, studying the enemy positions. "How many reinforcements?" "Unknown, sir. But the signals are going out to at least 6 different star systems." For the first time since the war began, the swarm was asking for help. The collective mind that had conquered countless worlds was admitting that it could not understand what it was fighting. Commander Hyunwoo was leading a patrol of human fighters near the edge of the battle zone when he witnessed something that would be talked about for generations. A small group of swarm bioships had surrounded a damaged human destroyer, apparently trying to study it. The destroyer was the Rising Phoenix, commanded by Captain Sung Min. His ship had lost its main engines in the previous battle, but his crew was still fighting. Instead of surrendering or trying to escape, they had turned their ship into a floating weapons platform. "Phoenix, this is Patrol Leader Hyunwoo," he called over the radio. "Do you need assistance?" "Negative," came Sung Min's calm reply. "We are exactly where we want to be." The bioships were moving carefully around the destroyer, their sensors scanning every inch of the human vessel. They were trying to understand why the humans kept fighting when they should have given up. That was when Sung Min gave them their answer. "All human ships, this is Phoenix. We are going to show these creatures what humans do when we are cornered." The destroyer's remaining nuclear missiles launched simultaneously, not at the surrounding bioships, but at each other. The collision created a massive explosion that destroyed the Phoenix and damaged 3 swarm vessels. Captain Sung Min and his crew had sacrificed themselves not for tactical advantage, but to send a message. Humans would rather die than be studied like laboratory animals. The effect on the swarm was immediate and disturbing. The bioships began to move erratically, their formation breaking apart as the collective mind struggled to process what it had witnessed. "They cannot understand us," realized Captain Soo-jin, watching from her fighter cockpit. "We do not make sense to them." She was right. The swarm's intelligence was based on logic and efficiency. Every species they had fought before followed predictable patterns. They fought when they had advantages, retreated when they were outnumbered, and surrendered when defeat was certain. Humans did none of these things. Intelligence Officer Min Ho had been studying swarm behavior patterns for weeks, trying to find weaknesses in their tactics. But now he was seeing something unprecedented in the enemy data. "Sir," he reported to Admiral Tae-min, "the swarm is changing its entire battle doctrine. They are pulling ships from offensive operations in other sectors and sending them here." "How many ships?" Tae-min asked. "All of them, sir. Every available swarm vessel in this part of the galaxy is being redirected to fight us." The implications were staggering. For the first time in their existence, the swarm was concentrating their forces to deal with a single enemy. They were treating humanity not as another species to be consumed, but as a threat that required their full attention. Communication specialist Da-eun was monitoring transmissions between swarm bioships when she discovered something even more disturbing. "Admiral, the swarm is learning our language." "What do you mean?" "They are not just studying our tactics anymore. They are trying to understand our words, our culture, our way of thinking. They want to know why we fight the way we do." This was the swarm's second mistake. In trying to understand humanity, they were exposing themselves to human concepts that their collective mind was not designed to handle. The bioships began to exhibit new behaviors. Some of them started attacking in smaller groups instead of coordinated formations. Others began to hesitate before firing as if they were uncertain about their targets. Captain Jiwoo noticed it during a skirmish near the outer planets. "The swarm ships are fighting like individuals," she reported. "They are not acting as one mind anymore." The collective intelligence that had dominated the galaxy was fracturing, infected by exposure to human unpredictability. The swarm had spent so much effort trying to understand their new enemy that they had lost their own identity in the process. But this victory came with a terrible price. The concentrated swarm fleet heading toward human space was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The real war was about to begin. The alien council chamber felt different now. The crystalline walls that once pulsed with gentle light now flickered with harsh, urgent rhythms. Captain Jiwoo stood before the assembled beings, her uniform torn and stained with the marks of countless battles. Behind her, holographic displays showed the latest casualty reports, and the numbers made even the ancient alien counselors flinch. "Battle. Group 7. Total loss," Jiwoo reported in a voice that had grown cold over the past months. "Battle Group 12. 86% casualties. Battle Group 3. Destroyed while ramming the swarm flagship." The Vex representative's translucent form shimmered with what humans had learned to recognize as distress. These losses are unprecedented. These losses are necessary, Jiwoo replied without emotion. Commander Dayun stepped forward, carrying a datapad filled with tactical analyses that the aliens had specifically requested. The swarm has adapted to standard human tactics. They now expect our ramming attacks and nuclear mines. We have been forced to develop new methods. She activated a holographic display showing the Battle of Kepler Station. The aliens watched, in horrified fascination as human ships deliberately flew into the gravity well of a dying star, using the stellar radiation to mask their approach before detonating their entire fuel supply inside swarm bioships. Effective, noted the silver tree being, its metallic branches rustling with unease. But your crews are volunteers, Dawn finished. Every single one. This was what the aliens could not understand. Humans were not being forced to make these sacrifices. They were choosing to do so, lining up for missions that offered no chance of survival. The waiting lists for kamikaze assignments were longer than for standard combat roles. Lieutenant Minho had been monitoring alien military communications for weeks, watching as other species began to study human tactics. What he discovered made him deeply uncomfortable. Admiral Taemin, he reported privately after the council session, the Zilani are implementing human-style warfare in their eastern sectors. Show me. The holographic display changed to show Zilani ships, no longer fighting in their traditional elegant formations. Instead, they moved in aggressive patterns, focusing overwhelming firepower on single targets and accepting heavy casualties to achieve objectives. They are calling it acceptable loss doctrine, Minho continued. They have calculated that sacrificing 30% of their forces can result in complete mission success. Taemin studied the display with growing unease. The Zilani ships moved with mechanical precision, but there was something wrong about it. They were copying human tactics without understanding human reasons. What about the other species? The same. All council races are adopting human military philosophy. They are learning to treat their own people as resources. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just taught the galaxy how to fight the swarm. They had taught them how to think about war itself, how to calculate the value of individual lives against strategic objectives. Captain Su Jin returned from a joint mission with Zilani forces, and her report painted an even darker picture. They are not the same species anymore, she told her superiors. The Zilani commander ordered his ships to ram swarm vessels just like we do, but when I asked him why, he showed me a mathematical formula. A formula? For calculating when sacrifice becomes profitable. They have turned human desperation into an equation. The change was spreading through the galaxy like a virus. Species that had fought with honor for millions of years were now adopting scorched earth tactics, destroying their own colonies to deny them to the swarm. Ancient civilizations were learning concepts like strategic retreat and acceptable casualties. But the most disturbing reports came from human settlements themselves. Communications specialist Yunji had been monitoring transmissions from Earth when she noticed something that made her hands shake. Admiral, we have a problem on the home front. The transmission was from Earth's Global Defense Council. It showed vast crowds of civilians volunteering for military service, not just young people, but entire families. Children as young as 16 were trying to enlist for suicide missions. The recruitment centers cannot handle the volume, the Earth commander reported. We have more volunteers for high-risk assignments than we have ships to carry them. Taemin watched the footage of his home planet with growing horror. Earth had become a world obsessed with sacrifice, where dying for the war effort was considered the highest honor. Schools were teaching children how to calculate tactical losses. Elderly people were volunteering to pilot bomb ships into swarm formations. We have created a culture of death, he realized. Commander Hyunwoo discovered the true cost during a supply run to a human mining colony. The colonists had converted their entire operation into a weapons factory, working 18-hour shifts to produce kinetic kill vehicles. When he asked about their families, they showed him empty schools and quiet neighborhoods. The children have been evacuated to military training facilities, the colony administrator explained. Everyone else is here working for the war effort. Where? Are the elderly? The disabled? The administrator's face grew uncomfortable. They volunteered for the Veteran Corps, single-use missions that require minimal training. Even humans were beginning to see each other as resources to be expended. The aliens had gotten exactly what they asked for, a species willing to pay any price for victory. But that price was transforming not just humanity, but the entire galaxy, into something darker than what they had been fighting against. In their desperate attempt to defeat the swarm, they were becoming something just as ruthless, just as willing to consume lives for their goals. The war was changing everyone, and there might be no way back. The bridge of the flagship was silent, except for the steady beeping of countdown timers. Admiral Taemin stood before the main display, watching Earth slowly rotate beneath them. The blue marble that had given birth to humanity looked peaceful and innocent, completely unaware that it was about to become the most powerful weapon in galactic history. 10 minutes until solar ignition, reported Navigator Yunji, her voice carefully controlled. Behind her professional manner, Taemin could see the tears she was fighting to hold back. Commander Daun approached him with the final authorization codes. Sir, all human ships have been notified. The evacuation fleet is at minimum safe distance. Taemin looked at the numbers on his screen. Out of 8 billion people on Earth, only 50,000 had been selected for evacuation. The rest had volunteered to stay, working until the final moment to maintain the solar detonation system that would turn their sun into a weapon. The swarm main fleet? He asked. Arriving on schedule, Daun replied. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 8 minutes. Through the bridge windows, the approaching swarm fleet looked like a dark storm cloud covering the stars. Thousands of bioships, each one the size of a city, moving with deadly purpose toward the galactic core. This was the swarm's final push, the concentrated force that would end all resistance in the galaxy. Captain Jiwoo's voice crackled over the communication system from her position in the outer defensive ring. Admiral, the swarm is breaking through our lines. They will reach Earth in 6 minutes. Understood, Taemin replied. All ships maintain position. Do not let them suspect what we are planning. The human fleet was tiny compared to the approaching enemy. Barely 300 ships, most of them damaged from previous battles. To the swarm, they must have looked like the last desperate gasp of a dying species, which was exactly what Taemin wanted them to think. Lieutenant Minho was monitoring the solar detonation system from his console. Sir, the sun's core temperature is reaching critical levels. Once we trigger the cascade reaction, we will have approximately 90 seconds before stellar explosion. Taemin nodded. 90 seconds to watch their homeworld die, to see everything humanity had built disappear in nuclear fire. But those 90 seconds would also doom the swarm's main fleet. Communication from the Galactic Council, reported Specialist Boram. They are asking for final confirmation of the plan. The alien species were waiting at the edge of the solar system, their fleets positioned to take advantage of the chaos that would follow Earth's destruction. They had accepted humanity's final sacrifice with the same cold calculation they had learned from humans themselves. Tell them the plan is confirmed, Taemin said, and remind them of their promise. The surviving humans are to be given full council membership. Captain Su Jin's fighter squadron was engaged in a desperate battle with swarm bioships near the moon. Her voice came through the static-filled radio. Command, they are breaking through. The lead bioships will reach Earth in 4 minutes. Let them come, Taemin replied. Commander Hyunwoo was coordinating the evacuation fleet's final preparations when he noticed something that made his heart sink. Admiral, we have a problem. The civilian evacuation ships are turning around. What? The transport ships are heading back toward Earth. The civilians refused to leave. On the display, Taemin could see dozens of small ships breaking away from the evacuation fleet and flying back toward their doomed planet. Families who had been given the chance to survive were choosing to stay with their world until the end. They are sending a message. Boram reported, her voice barely above a whisper. The message was simple and broadcast on all frequencies. This is our home. We die with our home. Taemin closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of what humanity had become. They had started this war as a desperate species fighting for survival. Now they were something else entirely. A people so committed to victory that they would sacrifice everything, even their own planet. 2 minutes to solar ignition, announced Yunji. The swarm bioships had reached Earth's outer atmosphere. Their massive forms blotted out sections of the planet's surface as they prepared to begin the final consumption of humanity's birth world. All human ships, final transmission, Taemin spoke into the ship's communication system. His words were heard by every human vessel in the solar system and by the alien fleets waiting beyond. We came to the stars as refugees, asking for a place in the galaxy. We found only war. But in fighting this war, we discovered something about ourselves. We learned that there are things worth dying for and things worth killing for. We learned that survival is not just about living, but about what you are willing to become to keep living. The countdown timer reached 30 seconds. The galaxy will remember us not as the species that saved them, but as the species that showed them what victory really costs. We regret nothing. The timer reached 0. Earth's sun exploded. The stellar detonation sent a wave of energy across the solar system that made the bioships writhe and scream in frequencies only they could hear. The swarm's main fleet, caught in the expanding shell of nuclear fire, began to die. When the light faded, the solar system was empty, except for cooling debris and the scattered remains of 2 civilizations that had destroyed each other completely. The galaxy was safe, but at a price that would haunt the survivors forever.